All right, so you've decided to move abroad. In our case, we decided to move to Costa Rica, and the next question that we encountered was, how do we get our stuff there? Do we want to take our stuff? And what are our options when you move abroad? So in this video, I'll go over what your options are. Ours happen to be specific to Costa Rica, but they probably translate to a lot of other countries and a lot of other places around the world. And I will go over what our justification was for landing on the decision that we did. We decided to ship a container, and I'll go over why exactly we did that. A lot of people that come to Costa Rica don't opt for a container, and they go other routes. But essentially it comes down to about 3 or 4 options. Number 1, you can ship nothing and buy everything abroad. Number 2, you could use like these Rubbermaid containers that you can find at Costco. These things can actually be secured down and checked in at an airport, and you can actually bring your things whenever you travel back and forth from the U.S. This might work well for a couple who doesn't have a lot of stuff that they need to bring, who may be traveling back and forth to the United States often. But at any rate, this is totally an option. Another option is an LCL container, which is a less than container load. That's what LCL stands for. And so in this case, you can picture like a pallet, like a cardboard box. Basically, whatever fits on a pallet, that would be an option for bringing things. In our case, we priced this out, and to ship something like this to Costa Rica would have started at around $4 or $5 grand, and we did not think that was worth it. Because you can't fit a whole lot in that pallet. Your next option up from that is a 20-foot shipping container, and this is what we ultimately chose. But picture kind of a small semi-load, like a half of a semi. But some people put cars, motorcycles in these things. We ended up putting all of our household goods. And then finally, you have the 40-foot option container, which is a really big shipping container, which was more than we needed. And it was also more costly than we wanted to spend. When shipping into Costa Rica, all of Central America and Costa Rica especially just loves their bureaucracy. So what that means is that they love checking all the boxes. They love getting their, they love knowing what's coming into their country. So you will need to put together a very detailed packing list. Now, there are shipping companies that offer to do this for a fee. We felt it was easier for us to do it ourselves because we could pack up and as we go, and we didn't have to pack up with the shipping company there and put everything into boxes. But this happens to be our list here. So, like for example, you don't have to get too specific, but what they do, anything with a power cable, they're asking for a brand, a model number, and a serial number. And then this import value thing over here was, something that they said that we needed to do, but ultimately the shipping company that we ended up working with, I think they were the ones that ultimately put the import value on it. But we just handed them this Google Doc, and they were able to put together all their documentation that they needed for customs. So one of the biggest things that customs cares about is the number of boxes in that shipping container, and that they all are tied together and in this list. So for every single box, we put a box number on it, we put exactly what's in that box, and then what I ended up doing was actually printing these shipping labels like this here with my name on it, and we wrote on there with a Sharpie from the US to the Costa Rica, and every single box had a box number with a sticker attached. And when we say box, we also can mean like I don't know, like a chair. For example, we've got a whole bunch of kitchen chairs and things down here. Each one of those had its own label. We called them boxes. but ultimately they just had a label that said box number 151 and so on. But what they really care about is this number at the very end, like this, that every single box is accounted for and ties back to your list. Ultimately, after all of our analysis, we did decide to go with the 20-foot container. What all went into that analysis was, number one, the cost of the container, which where we were coming from the Midwest, so you're kind of looking at a minimum of $10,000 just to get it down to Costa Rica, and that does not include customs taxes that you will pay in order to get your container out of customs. It does not include like the storage costs that the port authority charges, and other taxes and fees on top of that. So it's not a cheap thing to get a 20-foot container down to Costa Rica. It might be cheaper if you live in LA or New York, or you're in the shipping industry and you've got some contacts. But for us, we were looking at well north of $10,000 to get there. But here are some of the things that went into our analysis. Number one, we have a very expensive bed that we were not willing to sell or get rid of in the US, and we wanted it here in Costa Rica. And stuff here in Costa Rica, good quality things, is kind of hard to come by. You can come by a lot of the same things like blenders and kitchen appliances, but they're not the same quality. So we wanted our high quality things from the US here in Costa Rica, and as a family of 4, we were kind of estimating somewhere around 20 grand to get our lives set up down here. Meaning, if we didn't ship anything from the US and bought everything here, meaning like beds, couches, kitchen appliances, utilities, silverware, all that stuff, we came up with a number right around 20 grand to really get us set up. So the shipping container was the cheaper option. The other issue that we ran into is, well, if you choose not to send your stuff to Costa Rica, what do you do with it? Do you put it into storage in the US? Do you try to sell it all? Do you give it all away? And so, what do you do with all those things? They become pretty difficult to manage if you're not going to bring them down to Costa Rica. Now, some people have different situations, and that may be easy for them to do. For us, as a family of 4, it wasn't. All right, so I should also talk about the timeline of getting your shipping container to Costa Rica. We packed ours up on August 30th. It left that day on a semi. It sat in St. Paul for a couple days before it hopped on a train and went to New York, and then it sat in New York, in the New York port for a few days, and then it hopped on a barge, on a ship, and made it to a port in Costa Rica. I can't remember the name of the port. It was on the Caribbean side. It arrived in Costa Rica on October 4th. Then it got transferred to San Jose and was stuck in a customs facility for around a month or so. But the whole process took from loading the container August 30th at our location, at our home in Minnesota, until it was finally released from customs, happened about November 22nd. So it was like October 30th to November 22nd. So it was September, October, November. So you're looking at like 3.5 months, and that's about what the shipping container company, the shipping company, estimated. But altogether, from start to finish, that is pretty typical. That's, as far as we know, everything went well. And we have yet to actually see our shipping container because our condo is not yet finished with construction. So it has gone from customs into a storage facility where it's sitting right now. Our shipping company actually put it into a storage facility for us, and they will deliver it as soon as our condo is ready. Hey, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you got some good, valuable information out of it. And if you're considering moving to Costa Rica or moving abroad, good luck.